welcome back to JG3 Reviews. Here we explore the world of fountain pens, ink, and paper, and today it's a pen day, and today it is the Jinhao 59. This is a new offering from Jinhao that I think is going to be a big hit. Now, this pen is Jinhao's take on the famous Pilot E95s, a wonderful pen and one of, if not the best ways to introduce yourself to a gold nib. But not everybody needs a gold nib or wants a gold nib, and sometimes we just want a pen in maybe that form factor that's a good knockabout pen, and so that's where this Jinhao comes in. Now, it's pretty obvious that's what they're going for because this is, again, the Jinhao 59, and it's patterned after the 95. You see what they did? 95, 59. Yeah. That's happening. But it is a steel-nibbed pen, and it is a very approachable budget pen. But just being an homage of a great pen does not mean it is a great pen. And so we're going to put this pen through its paces. I'll show you the design and the nib and all of that. We'll do a writing test, and I'll show you what I like about the Jinhao 59. And of course, we'll talk pens and ink along the way. All right, let's spin that camera and get started. All right, there it is, the Jinhao 59. Isn't that a great looking pen? Classic, mid-century, modern, and I don't know, it just has something that is so nice and familiar. Oh, wait a minute. That's what it is. It's very much patterned after the Pilot Elite 95s from Pilot, made in Japan, a wonderful pen with an absolutely stellar gold nib. So there's no getting around it, and we might as well just start off with that elephant in the room. This is one of the best ways to get into a gold nibbed pen, but you may wonder, does the form factor work for me? Should I try something else first? Is there a way to try that out where I can see if I just like the shape and not have put out so much money? Or maybe you're somebody that just wants a simple steel nib, and Pilot doesn't offer you that. Well, this is a classic design. It's been around for decades, and actually, Pilot wasn't the only one to do it. I actually have a pen here that you're going to see in the size comparison from Sailor in the 70s. That's the same form factor as well. So this is a pen shape, type, size that has been around a long time with multiple makers. And so I'm tempted to let Jinhao get by with this just a little bit. Anyway, this is an interesting little pen. It is a budget pen, quite affordable for most. Has a nice stiff but springy nib. It has just a plain finial. This brushed metal actually reminds me more of the Sailor I just showed you than it does the Pilot, but I like that look. Or you can get it in all black, and you can get it in a burgundy model. Again, inspired by the Pilot. You have a plastic body that is nice and short when capped, but which becomes a standard size pen when posted. And this is the reason the pen exists, so that when you want to write, you get a nice, balanced, full-size pen. You have that hidden nib that gives you multiple options on how to hold the pen. And in this case, you have an extra fine steel nib that hopefully is one that writes the way that you want it to. It's a good form factor and a pen style that I really like. It's friction fit, and I have to say, the way that goes on and off is excellent. Just a very nice feel as you cap and uncap, post and unpost this pen. And it's something that, frankly, they had to get right as far as I'm concerned, because this is one of those things that I like about the Pilot and the Sailor pen both. And so it needed to be able to keep up with them in that regard. And it actually surprisingly does. Now, when you take this cap off and unscrew the barrel, you will find that it is a cartridge converter pen. Now, this converter is shorter than usual, and there's very little of it sticking out, and my pen is inked, so I'm not going to yank it out, but be careful getting it out. Use a rubber strip or something like that to give you traction on this little bit of the metal of the converter, because it does come out, but it's stiff enough in its fit here that you might feel like it's glued in or you're going to break it, but you're not. You just need to be able to get a good enough grip. I would recommend using like a rubber tourniquet to pull that out. And that's what I'll do when I clean the pen. There is an O-ring here, and so that's good. The converter, going back to that, holds about 0.6-ish milliliters of ink. So it's smaller capacity than a typical converter, but there is a workaround. This is not the Chinese standard or an international standard. This is the 3.4 millimeter, which is also a Chinese standard. bore converter. And that means that you have availability for a bunch of refillable 3.4 millimeter bored cartridges. So like Hongdian, those cartridges will fit this pen no problem. There are just lots of options out there in that 3.4 millimeter bore should you decide that you'd like to use a cartridge. Now I'm going to stick to the converter, but that does raise a question. How long will these shortened converters be available? If it's made just for this pen, I'm not aware of another Jinhao pen that uses a shortened converter in a 3.4. How long will those be available? That might be a thing. And are they available apart from the pen? I don't know at the time of the review, so that's something to consider, but you will have backup. You can always refill a Hongdian cartridge, and I've got a bunch of those around here, so no issue there. And those have a better capacity as well once you've done that. Now, looking at that nib, it is a steel nib. This one is an extra fine with a plastic feed, and I think you'll see in the writing sample that this is a decent extra fine. I would think it wasn't available on the day that I bought it. I rushed and got this and had to get what was available at the time when they first came out. And the person I was buying from was sold out in the fines, but I would think that the fine is going to be an even more enjoyable nib for those of us that like fine and medium nibs. But this is a good one, and I have enjoyed using it. If you like an extra fine, I think you'll find that this is a pretty good nib. It is an inexpensive steel nib, so keep those expectations realistic. But yeah, a decent nib from Jinhao in this pen. For our size comparison, we have the Jinhao 59, its inspiration, the 95s from Pilot, and then a pen that really helped start all of this, the Sailor Pocket Pen, in this case from 1971, and the Evergreen Kaweco Sport, in this case a piston model, and that one coming in quite short compared to everything else. All of these are great pocket pens and a lot of fun, and I would recommend any one of them. And then we have them here in their unposted length, which is not how you're usually going to use these pens except to maybe jot a quick note, but you can see here how the Jinhao's nib actually bears a little bit more resemblance, I think, to the steel nib here in that Sailor. But all of them are just a little bit different. Of course, the Kaweco here is the only standard shaped nib, or at least what is most common. And here are the pens in their posted length. And this is the main reason you buy one of these pens. So while they're short in their capped length, and that makes them convenient for different sized pockets and yada, 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 you have a pen that is a full length pen, basically a normal, standard, medium sized pen once you actually post it. And that's what makes the 95 so wonderful. While smaller still, it makes that Sailor wonderful. And of course here with the Jinhao, it makes it a nice full sized pen. Now the Kaweco Sport still comes in as a short pen. That's okay. It's still a lot of fun. But this makes for a pen that is a full length, and for some people that makes it a better writing experience. All right, I know some of you are anxious to see just how this pen writes. And you know, I would be normally, except that one, I've been writing with it for 3 weeks, and two, I've already filmed this twice and my phone blanked out on me. So let's try this again. It's kind of cheating. I've had practice, haven't I? So this is an extra fine today. I don't usually get an extra fine. Fines I like, mediums are my favorite. But every now and then I'll get an extra fine. And I find that as long as it's a really good nib, I actually like them better than I remember that I do. You're not going to get much springiness in this. You'll get a little bit, but it's almost invisible as far as I can tell. So I wouldn't bother. The flow I have found to be just fine. The ink today, the ink is better than my handwriting today. I don't know what's going on this afternoon. Onyx Black. And I like this ink from Diamine. It's a well-saturated black. You know, sometimes you get some of these inks and they have names that tell you, oh, this is going to be just the darkest black you've ever seen. And then you sit there and go, that's a nice dark gray. Huh, what happened there? This one is actually fairly black as advertised. And I found that the pen writes nicely. It has a bit of a pencil-like feedback. You may be able to hear that here in the writing sample if the mic picks that up. And I like that, as long as it's not draggy or catches on a paper fiber, and then that's a total deal breaker. Just a little bit of feedback that's like a smooth pencil I like, and I don't even mind the audible feedback. In that way, it actually does remind me of what would remind you of pencil feedback, right? A Sailor. So my vintage 1971 Sailor has that same quality in its extra fine nib, and I really enjoy writing with that pen. This is larger and not quite as light, but the nib feels somewhat similar to that, which I guess is pretty high praise for what this pen is. Like I lifted there. I find that sometimes I become lift prone with extra fine nibs because I feel like you have to handle them a little bit more delicately. And so I tend to lift more often. Anyway, I really enjoy this pen. The form factor is a proven form factor, and Pilot proved that. But I like this. It's that semi-hidden nib, and like with a hidden nib, like the Parker 51 and its homages and clones, it gives you more room to find your sweet spot with a pen, and I like the ergonomics of that. Let's do our speed test and see how this keeps up. I lifted there. Okay, here and here I lifted. I think everything else is the pen, and I think that does quite well. I haven't had any issues writing with the pen. I haven't had dry out issues either, although some users have a little bit. I love the format, and again, it's a Pilot thing, but I find that cap goes on with such a nice snick that it almost seems like cheating at this price point. It really feels good when you post it, the sounds it makes, the feel of the pen, it just feels like more than it is. I don't know why that is, but the snick of this pen is really nice. I like the brushed cap on this one, and actually I mentioned that vintage Sailor a time or two. In style, it reminds me more of that pen than it does the E95S, even though clearly it is the dimensions of the Pilot. Just the style in this color reminds me a lot of that Sailor, which is a favorite pen, so that, makes me feel positive about it before I even pick it up. But I like that they have this offering because, like a lot of people, there are times and places where I don't want to take my Pilot because, if some place where it's going to be more risk of dropping, losing, whatever, I'm going to leave that at home. So this becomes then a great option. And as with other homage pens, I'm going to tell you this. If you're unsure about whether or not you like this form factor, the long, short form factor of the Pilot, or maybe you're not sure if you want that hidden nib, you don't know, how's that grip going to feel to you? Will you find a sweet spot or not? I think you will. But, if you aren't sure and you don't want to plunk down the money on the Pilot until you know for sure, get this and try it out. Even if you get one and you don't like the nib, but you like the form factor, you've learned something, and maybe then that makes you think, you know what? I think I like this well enough. I should check out that Pilot. And so, let it be the gateway drug that it is, and go get that Pilot, because this is probably and at the very least, one of the best entries into a gold nib that you can find. It's great bang for the money in that class. It has wonderful style, and I don't know if I can say enough good about my Pilot 95. Just a wonderful, wonderful pen. And this is a great intro to that. And if it's just one of those things where not everybody needs a gold nib or wants a gold nib, and you're thinking, I just don't want to do that. Well, then this is your steel option. I do wish that they had a couple more nib sizes available. I am more of a medium nib person. That's what my 95 is, and that is an awesome medium nib. So that would be great. I do know that people who have the fine in this pen are really liking that fine. I think Jinhao makes some really good fines. So check it out. That's the Jinhao 59 Fun pen, proven design, and a great way to try that out. What do you think? Share that in the comments below. As always, thank you so much for liking, sharing, subscribing. It really does help the channel. Appreciate all of you who have become members of the channel, and all of you subscribers, unsubscribers, no matter those who are new to the channel and those who have been here since the beginning, all of you. I hope you have an absolutely wonderful week. I look forward to seeing you in the next review. God bless you.